And we're back here with another edition of Down and Back with CornDoug. We got Mike Morton here with us, and we're going to get into it right away. We're not going to put him out, bring him in, because there's already so much stuff to talk about. Big week, I guess you can call it a big week, down in Rock Hill last week. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a huge week, just a fantastic event, great time.
Like I say, I can only call it the ACL Finals. I can't call it the Worlds because Canada wasn't there, so we can't really call it the Worlds. But hopefully, fingers crossed, next year we can make the trip down and we'll try and take last place in the Conference Cup again like we did the first time. But yeah, so big week. I guess from your standpoint, I know Matthew had a little tough time at times, but your thoughts on the week before we get into some of the results.
Yeah, well, first of all, my hat's off to the ACL crew. I mean, it was a fantastic tournament. It was just ran, as far as I could tell, about as flawlessly as you can run an event of that size. There were so many different divisions, so many different events, so many people there. It was just a great time. A lot of logistics and planning had to go into that. So my hats are off to them. Great event. We got to see the Jorge Masvidal show. I don't know if you got to see that, but
no, I was here about it.
Okay. Yeah. It was, some people might think it was a little campy, but to be quite honest with you, that was a breakthrough moment. I mean, it exposed our sport to so many people that would have never thought about cornhole or even, considered it. And now we're in their consciousness because of, Jorge Masvidal was just a great sport and helping us do that event. So, that was a great time too. We rolled out the Topps trading cards. That was a phenomenal thing as well, just breaking new ground in that area. And then back to Matthew. Matthew struggled a little bit. I would say Matthew brought his B to B plus game almost to every match that he played. But when you're on that stage, if you don't bring your A or A plus game, you're gonna struggle. So I think he went 3-2 or 4-2 in just about every event there. So not horrible. A lot of people would give the right arm to throw that well, but it wasn't up to his standards.
Yeah, like I said, I'll almost give my whole body just to be able to go that because I've been struggling. Yeah. I myself watched all week, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can. You know what? I'm feeling it. And then I got to we started off a league night on Monday night, and I think I went 0-8. So. So yeah, it's can get you going.
I will tell you, I'm at Matthews, where we practice at the little practice facility tonight, and since we got back, he's practiced every night, which is a little unusual for him, but he's determined to figure out what went wrong, and Doug, I'm here to tell you, he figured it out tonight. Matthew is back. When you do something so long and all of a sudden you do something a little slightly differently, and you just don't realize his grip had slipped on him. And he was using a bad grip, and he figured it out tonight exactly what it was. And I've seen, he was just back to the old Matthew, just raining them down. So, knock on wood, I think moving forward, he's going to be back up to where he's used to being.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit off air. Just you were en route to Rock Hill when the first, I don't want to say dominoes for the big guns started to fall, but it started on that first, what was it, Tuesday night with the women's.
Yeah, we were trying to, I was driving to Rock Hill after work, and Brad was trying to live stream the women. Well, not trying to. He was live streaming the women's match, but he kind of propped it up in the dashboard a little bit, and I was trying to sneak a little peek every now and then and see a throw. But more than anything, just kind of listening to the commentary and following along. And it sounded like the women were just putting on an absolute show. And like we were talking before we came on, the new names that were there were just amazing. Sarah Cassidy, my hat is off to her. I had not heard her name before, and I don't remember ever seeing her play before. And that's on me. That's my bad. I mean, she lit it up. And then Maya Cup, was telling you earlier, she wasn't as much of a surprise to me because Matt and Brad had to play her and Donald earlier in the season. And Maya really threw a great match, and Maya and Donald beat Matt and Brad in Florida. So I knew she was capable, but to see her do it on the big stage was really great. And, I think those two have kind of turned the women's division on their ear a little bit, Megan Maupin was obviously there at the end. Finley was there at the end. I know that Christine Papke wasn't too far behind, but I don't think anybody would have picked, Sarah Cassidy and Maya Cup to be, that strong in both the women's singles and Woman of the Year matches. That was just great to see.
Well, for sure with Sarah, because it's almost like she showed real poise. Like she didn't get shaken at all in all of her games. Like we had talked, we had said when she had started off strong against Megan in the final, she started to struggle a bit, and she was just. And I'd mentioned it on Tuesday night that she was just putting bags on the board, which is something people don't do. They try and go for that big shot all the time, but just put bag on the board. I'll give up the 1 or 2 points. I'll get my shot back.
Right. Yeah, and then, in women's doubles, Cheyenne Renner and Sarah Cassidy took that down. Again, that's my bad for not really knowing who Sarah was. I know how good Cheyenne is, but I don't think anybody would have picked that doubles team to come out on top in women's doubles. So, again, I think it's a wonderful thing for the game to have, more people up at the top that can win any event. Now everyone's really got to look hard.
Oh, exactly. I think that, like you said it right, Bass, it is. I think that is the best thing for the game, is just getting those new people up there, because we've heard people complain. You're always seeing the same people all the time. Well, hey, you got what you asked for this week,
and you can't,
for sure.
And you can't do anything about that. You can't handicap or sandbag people. You can't say say Jamie Graham, you get -5 points to start every game because we're tired of seeing you on TV. It's up to the people that are in that next tier to start stepping it up and earning their way onto the broadcasts. And I think we saw a lot of that this time, which was awesome. Sam Finley and Allison Peters had a great run. Ended up coming in second in women's doubles. So, we all know who Sam Finley is, and I think we're starting to learn who Allison is. Of course, she's from not too far from us. I think she's from North Carolina. But, I knew who she was, but I don't think everybody knew who she was. So that's another fresh face up at the top.
Yeah, which, like you said, that is great to see. It's tough for Christine Papke because she's been there all the time. But I think even she would say that it's nice to get that new blood up there to make it that much more interesting.
Yeah. She knows she's got to work hard when she comes to every event now. There's no living off reputations now. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about Maya Cup getting Woman of the Year. Jamie Graham, I think people were kind of already thinking that was going to happen with him picking up Man of the Year, but that was another one. Matthew struggling to start. Ryan Windsor being out. That first person. It was like that was another one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy tournament. I'm watching Matthew and the Man of the Year go down in the first round, and I should say the second year in a row he went down in the first round as one of the heavy favorites to at least make a deep run. But I'm watching him fall to Dave Sutton, who was just throwing a phenomenal game, and then I hear somebody tell me that Ryan Windsor just lost in the first round, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? I mean, the big dogs started falling early in that. And, it's just a huge credit to Jamie Graham that he doesn't seem to ever fall for those traps. He wins the games he's supposed to win, to make it to the end. And that's just a sign of consistency.
But I'm not even sure if it is a trap, because we talked about there's so many good players there now that there's that target on those big players now. And it's people getting better enough and good enough that they can, I can take that guy. I can win with that confidence.
That makes it, to me, the big guys, Jamie and right now Ryan, to me, they've kind of separated themselves from the pack. And to me, it makes it even more impressive that they walk into every tournament with a target on their back, and somehow they still manage to persevere and find their way to the end. That was kind of what I was saying about Matthew in the entire week we were there. I felt like because he's gotten a lot of attention fairly recently, he walked into every match with a huge target on his back. And in some cases, I could see it on the opponent's faces that this match meant more to them than it did to Matthew. They really bared down, and everybody brought their A+ game against him. And he's got to learn, to deal with that and persevere all the way to the end. And, you know, as a 17-year-old kid, he's got a lot of growth to do in that area. So, you know, it's a matter of what Sarah did in the one match in the women's was, you know what, I missed a bag. I'm just going to give up the 2 points and live to fight again another day. And unfortunately, sometimes Matthew would chase a bag and end up giving up a 4 or a 6. And then it's tough to come from behind. But I watched Caleb Batson from Texas. If you don't know that name, mark it down. He's a kid. I've heard he was like 14 or so. He's a young man from Texas, won the Texas State Championship this year. He played Matthew in the Conference Cup in the first match. And I might be exaggerating by about 1 bag, but I don't think I am. Pretty sure Matthew put like 27 out of 28 bags in a row at one point. 27 out of 28. And gave up 2 points to Caleb Batson because he put 28 out of 28 in. Mm-hmm. And that was just how hot he was and how motivated he was to play Matthew, I think. From what I understand, and I don't know this to be fact, but somebody else told me came up to me later and said that he went 0-4 in the rest of the Conference Cup. But that was a huge match that he really wanted to win coming right out of the gate against Matthew. And man, was he impressive. That was a phenomenal young man.
And I'm just kind of thinking here for a standpoint, looking at Matthew, learning this lesson, the adversity lesson so early. He's only 17. Like, that's just going to help him so much beyond.
Oh, I think so. I definitely think so. His, as calm a demeanor as he has on the boards, I don't think people really understand how deep the competitive fire burns in him. He holds himself to a very high standard, and the minute we got back from this trip, he was already working on how do I fix this? This was not up to where I wanted to be. So I think going through that adversity is going to do nothing but make him, hungrier and better for this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm. So we're going for the middle of the year. Well, you weren't there for the night of the seniors. So we got the old hat wins it. Damon Dennis takes it down.
Yes. back to back. Damon is just a machine. He won singles for seniors. He won senior doubles with him and Philip. They're just phenomenal. And my goodness, I got to tell you, Damon made a phenomenal run in just regular pro singles as well. I don't know if you were able to see that.
Actually, I did see a bit of it.
He was one of the most dominant players out on the main floor. I mean, he was just destroying people, making people, figuratively almost cry with, 50 out of 50 or, 50 out of 52 or some crazy numbers I was hearing. Unfortunately for him, I think he got down to the main stage and the boards were a little slicker.
Yep.
And then what happened was that he was having a hard time keeping those game changers on the board on those slicker boards. But he was impressive as anybody else in the field, and on that run all the way up to that main stage.
And now, I do remember his final game because he played Jamie Graham, and I made a comment to the guys I was camping with was that Jamie didn't throw his last bag the first end because Damon had a couple bags that were just laying that could have been in the hole. So he went and said, "I'm not throwing this. I'll give up the 4." Which is that other thing where you have to be confident in yourself. I can come back. Jamie just gives up that 4 and then beats him 21-4.
Absolutely. Right? And like I said, that's that champion mentality. And I think Jamie's one of those players, a lot of the times people either love him or they hate him. But I would like to think that everybody has to respect him because that's why. That is absolutely why. He knew he could afford to give up those 4 points. And if he bared down, in the end, it wasn't really going to matter. So, I think that's a great sign. Yeah.
And then moving on to the, we talked about women's doubles. The other doubles was the one, I'm going to say the team that no one was really paying attention to because everyone was looking at Brad and Matthew, Jamie and Frank, Windsor and Herrera, and then all of a sudden Trey Birchfield, who's been throwing lights out anyway, him and Derek King take that one down. Or even, I'm going to say I'm going to forget about them, but you can't forget about McClem and Malone because they were those ones that everyone was trying to catch.
Yep. Yeah. No. If anybody saw that the analysis that I did of the singles players prior to the tournament. Right before the tournament, I was trying to scramble and really rush real hard to do the same for doubles. And I got it done right before the tournament, but I really didn't have enough time to polish it up and present it to anybody. But I got to tell you, when I looked at the numbers, Birchfield and King just screamed, "Don't forget about me." I had them in my top four. They absolutely were easily in my top four. They had a lot of big wins throughout the season over some big names that, I think for whatever reason, they just snuck up on people a little bit. Everybody knew they were a top 10 team for sure. But when I started dissecting the numbers and saw how they did against the top tier competition, I knew they were a top 14.
Yeah, and even I believe they played McGuffin and Gilly in the final there, which is another team that they weren't really talked about a lot going in, but you go on a couple runs and you're there.
The most consistent team in the game, and I will admit I may have misunderestimated them just slightly. They were there in almost every tournament. They made a run to the finals of a bracket or all the way to the semifinals. They just didn't seem to have a bad tournament. So my hat's off. It's hard to be that consistent in the field that they were having to navigate each and every time.
Yeah, and then that takes us to the singles where Jamie did take that one down and beating tough luck Adam Hisner in the final because he's got the final before. He had to face James Bolden, who was red hot a couple years ago. Gets there again, and it's Jamie Graham.
Right. Yeah, and it was Jamie who just was waiting for him, and if you could almost look back to the beginning of the season and predict, it just almost had a feel that this was going to be Jamie's year from the very first event. And so he was on a mission to finish, and Adam just picked the wrong year to end up in the finals against Jamie.
Yeah, and then we talked that we did see a lot of names come up in the singles. One being Leslie McKeever because he took out Noah Wooten. And you could even see Noah was like, wow, what can I do here? Because he was just making some shots that game that were just incredible.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. I got to see the tail end of that match, and I got to see McKeever make some phenomenal airmail drags and stay alive and, just clutch shots. And I don't know him that well. I think he's from North Carolina with some, we're not that far from North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So I've seen him around a little bit, and it's my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, that he used to be really good a few years ago, and then took a little bit of time away, and now he's decided to come back and devote some more time to it and get serious. So I have a feeling we're just beginning to see the beginning of Leslie McKeever. I think he's back.
And which is, the more people that can be in there and being in that top, I think it's going to make everyone better. The whole product better.
Oh, absolutely. I would so much rather see every single top tier, competitor in that field. It just makes it, more fun to watch, and any competitor that would say, I wish the competition pool was a little thinner. I don't want you in my competition pool anyway. I'd rather see it strong, and I want to see everybody want it that way.
Yeah, and talking about the competition pool, we had the pro qualifier, and it looks like there's some bigger names that probably should have already been here for but that could be coming out, being Mac Guy, that guy, and Eric Davis coming out of the ACO, who they've still got another week, I guess, to make 2 weeks, I guess, to make their decision. But yeah, they're not fresh coming up in the pro qualifier.
Yeah, I mean, they are fantastic players. Anybody that tries to take anything away from any of those guys, you lose credibility the minute you say anything remotely, not even negative, but anything ordinary about them, because they're just special, all of them, Eric included. And Josh Holland was the other bracket winner. He's phenomenal. All those guys could easily step into the pro division and make an absolute splash. In a personal perspective, I would love to see it. I think it would be fantastic for the game of cornhole. Forget the ACL. I think it would be fantastic for the game of cornhole.
Yeah.
So, they'll make their decision. I understand they're, trying to weigh what's best in their best interest on where they want to go. They've dedicated a lot of time to the ACO in the past. I respect that. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But I would love to see them in the ACL playing with these guys. I think it would be so much fun. Every tournament would be a lot more competitive.
Well, and another name that surprised people out of that qualifier, I've heard a bit about him from talking to the Doghouse guys, is Tony Smith out of the Northeast, right?
Oh, impressive! Oh my gosh!
I think he went 7-1, and his only loss was to that guy. And I think that was like 21-16.
Yes, watch out for that kid. That's all I can say. I'd heard the name before, and I'd heard some people. It may have even been on the Dogcast. I'm not sure, but I was aware of the name, and I knew that there were some people saying, you got to watch out for him. But I'd never seen him myself, and after seeing him play, I'm a believer in him. He was awesome. So I think he's going to make an impact next season. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and for us old guys, it's another young guy that's come up and taking people out.
Yeah, he was just rolling through people. I think even the game with Matt Guy was fairly competitive, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that talent level. The talent level of all 30, I think it was 34 people that qualified there. That was a brutal field to come through. Let me tell you, there was some tough competition in that field. Jordan Langworthy, former ACL champion, was in there, and I think if I remember right, he went 5-3, so he didn't quite get in.
Yeah.
He'll probably get in that large bid. When the ACL sits around and decides who's going to get those last 20 slots or so. I mean, he is a former ACL champion. You got to give some deference there. But just to give you an example of how tough the field was, former ACL champion, went 5-3.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people there bringing their A game. A lot of people. It was quite frankly a little inspiring to see everybody chasing their so-called dream. It sounds weird to call cornhole, playing professional cornhole, a dream, but 256 people showed up to take a crack at it, and it was a little inspiring to just watch everybody take their swing.
Yeah, and I looked through the field and the records, and only one person out of all those people went winless. Everyone else got a win.
Right. Yeah. Everybody was playing their best and giving it their all. I know a lot of people that went 5-3, came up one match short, and all they could say was, "Man, I gave it everything I had." And guess what? I'll be back next year. I'm going to go refine my game, and I will be back next year. So, did you happen to see the Ian Cripps, or do you know about him?
I've seen some stories. I didn't get to see any of the video yet of him, but I heard the story.
He was a wonderful story too. I mean, he qualified as a 10-year-old. He's going to be a pro next year, and I'm here to tell you, I watched a lot of him. He earned every one of his wins. He's going to be a force next year, and he did not squeak in, and he's not getting any charity. As a 10-year-old that just started throwing less than a year ago, watch out for that boy. That was fun to watch.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for jumping in here. Almost last minute to bring you in, but we really appreciate it. And I hope to check in with you and Matthew once the season starts back up and we get rolling again.
No worries. I appreciate you having me on. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Thanks a lot again.
All right. Have a great night.
You too. Mike Morton there with father of Matthew Morton. We got to see, you probably would be able to see some of his live feeds on the during the week coming from down from Rock Hill. So that's kind of, I want to get his take because he didn't really get to watch a lot of it, and he does know a lot about the game. So after a big week, we now shut down for. The ACL now shuts down for 4 weeks. We start back up again in September. I know here we've started doing we've got some, we call it Cornhole Club, kind of like our fight club. We don't really talk about it that much, but yeah, we're having some fun. I'm doing the struggle. I'm on the struggle bus, and so yeah, so we're here to have fun, and so yeah, so coming up, one thing coming up is new sponsor coming up for the show. Can't say anything about it right now. Probably be doing some stuff in about another couple weeks. We'll roll some stuff out, but new show sponsor coming up, and yeah. So for that, it's just about finished, and another week, another 25 minutes for your week here going by. I want to thank Mike for coming on the show, and as it says in the bottom here, it's coming through right there. Welcome. We're now saying goodbye from the down and back, but check out the Octane Cornhole page. Give the show a like. Give us a subscribe. Let's get the subscriber count up. And as always, if you cannot watch it, which you probably are, but if there's times you can't watch it, check out iTunes, check out Spotify, and you can download the audio portion and then listen at your leisure. So for that, we're out for this week. We'll check again next week. Another show coming up in our cornhole off season. It'll be show 2 of the off season, and geez, we're coming up almost on a year for the show, so we might have something big coming up for that. So till next week, we're out. I guess we're done. So see y'all next week. Keep having fun. Keep playing cornhole. Stay safe, and yeah, we'll see you next week.